So moving on, Trump recently fired the commissioner of the Bureau of Labor Statistics after a weak job report. He basically believes that the numbers are rigged and that they're not true. And the monthly job report showed that there was weak hiring in July, and it was a large downward revision to job growth. And this is following the Fed meeting 2 days prior, where they decided to not cut rates and keep rates steady. People were on different sides of like the debate on whether or not we should keep rates steady or lower rates. And part of the reason for why you want to maybe lower rates is to stimulate jobs. So these two stories are like somewhat related, and we wanted to go over kind of like a look at the economy since the tariff situation that has been happening for the last 3 months and how it has affected us so far, and like what we're thinking is going to come in the next month. But yeah.
Yeah. So last Wednesday, they decided to keep rates the same. And this was the 5th consecutive meeting where rates have stayed the same. And Trump has been pushing really hard ever since he was elected into office that we need to lower rates, because if you lower interest rates, then you're in theory like stimulating the economy and people will spend more money. And this was the first time since 1993 where there was a split decision. Mm-hmm. So like a little context on how the Fed works. There's 12 members of the Federal Open Market Committee, and they determine like the U.S. monetary policy. So that's primarily just interest rates for us. They meet 8 times a year, and their 2 like main goals that they have to keep in mind is that they want to control inflation and maximize employment, and those like often go directly against each other. And so they basically are doing this like balancing act the entire time to keep the numbers at like what we want them to be. And so this time 2 people like double dissented basically, which means that like 2 people went against what the chair Jerome Powell like stated, which was that he wanted to keep rates the same, and they said they wanted to cut rates.
And they were both like Trump appointees, and it was the first time, you said the year, but it was the first time since what,
1993.
1993. Yeah. So like I feel like to me it kind of implies that like Trump's appointees were like more political picks than other presidents.
Yeah,
they were appointed during his first term, and so they've like been in office for a while, but it's like humming up now because Jerome Powell and Trump are clearly like always fighting with each other, and Jerome Powell's term is over next May. And so one of the guys that dissented, his name was Christopher Waller, and apparently he's like the front runner for who could replace Jerome Powell. So it is definitely like a political statement that he dissented.
Yeah. And the reason for why they kept the rate the same is that the inflation is still above its 2% target. And so I think Jerome Powell is sticking to the fact that he wants to wait till it's below 2%, regardless of like the low unemployment rate, the slow in hiring, and the moderate growth in the first half of the year, given like the AI boom recently. And so this kind of makes sense because I think he's just trying to not jump the gun and stimulate the economy. And then as a result, you start to see this pressure from Trump onto Powell and being frustrated for like Powell's choices. And it's clear that Trump wants to show, hey, these tariffs are not really impacting the economy. And a large way to show that is that if the rates get cut, then you see some stimulus in the economy, and then you can kind of correlate that stimulus in the economy back to the tariffs not really bringing it down. So it's like this circular nature of like Trump also needing Powell to comply with him to kind of fit into his story.
Yeah. And he's not. And Trump is calling him a stubborn moron.
Yeah.
On Truth Social.
So that's like one thing.
Yeah. And then to the tariff point, Powell basically said that there's still a lot of uncertainty about what consumer prices are going to look like, because Trump put all these tariffs on, then there was a pause on the tariffs, and then literally 2 days ago on August 1st, the tariffs resumed. And he also like put new tariffs
on like China and Taiwan.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And so I think it's super fair of Powell to be like, we don't know how this is going to impact consumer prices. And you had a really interesting point about this too.
Yeah. He said that stores are still working through inventory pre-tariffs, which like basically means that like stores, they have all this stock in their warehouse that they can sell off and that they didn't bring over from China. Mm-hmm. And so they're still working through selling that off, and they don't have to pay the tariffs just yet of bringing over stock into China. And I actually saw this because there was a store that I shop at, and like for a little while, like the prices were unaffected. Then like the prices spiked for like a week, but then the tariffs got paused. So then I think they like brought a bunch of like inventory in during the pause, and then now the tariffs are back on, but the prices haven't spiked yet
because they probably still have that inventory. Yeah, they're stockpiling right now.
So businesses are playing this like little dance of like, okay, when are we going to bring in the stock and when are we going to wait to bring in the stock? And it makes sense. And so Powell's just calling this out and trying to say, hey, like the tariffs and the tariff uncertainty, the reason why you haven't seen it in the market just yet is because it hasn't baked long enough. But as soon as it bakes long enough, we're going to see that. And I'm not going to preemptively like jump the gun and start to cut the rates. And then the second conversation that I think isn't always had in the media but is pretty relevant is that the US dollar has lost its value in the first half of 2025. Specifically, the dollar index has fallen around 10%. And the dollar index basically measures the value of the US dollar against a basket of like 6 major world currencies. And so we're losing value against like the yen and the euro and the pound. And so central banks worldwide are aggressively buying gold as a result, as an alternative to dollar reserves. And so what happens is when the US dollar becomes like less strong, then prices start to go up. So like the cost of purchasing other international goods goes up because your dollar is not as strong, obviously. The dollar's share of the central bank reserves has dropped below 60%, a 2-decade low. And so this is like pretty concerning. And the way that this is all related is that when you cut rates, like when the Fed cuts rates, that obviously weakens the dollar to a certain extent because you're not able to buy bonds and like get that interest or whatever. Anyways, so that it weakens the dollar. And so what Powell's also fighting against is a weak dollar. And so if he starts to cut rates, he starts to weaken the dollar even further. Our dollar is losing purchasing power, and that's another reason for prices to increase. Mm-hmm. And so we haven't seen the effect yet, but we will.
We will. It's coming.
Yeah, it's coming. So,
yeah. Wait,
yeah.
and some people are actually being like so drama. Like the Commerce Secretary said that Powell's torturing America with high rates. Like they're actually being so drama.
Yeah, but what they don't understand is that when you anyways, it's fine.
I feel like they do understand.
They do understand.
Really?
It's like all a little game.
Yeah. I mean, the other part of the dollar declining is because of the BBB, the Big Beautiful Act. And so like when you add debt,
BBB derogatory.
but it's like when you add debt, like, okay, when you print more money, the dollar also loses its value. So that's one thing.
And inflation also goes up.
It's kind of insane how well the markets are doing.
Yeah. And what's even crazier is on the release of the jobs report, which we're about to get into, the dollar index fell by 1.28%, which is the most in this year.
The market crashed too on Friday. Like the market was like NASDAQ was down like 2 or 3%, I think, because of the jobs report.
I know. I was actually so sad because like my portfolio was looking so good from the Figma IPO. And then I was like, oh, what happened? Why is everything else red?
And it was literally the jobs report.
Yeah.
And really quickly, just the other side of like why people want to cut rates, which we touched on, but related to the jobs report, is like their take is that the labor market is deteriorating. And this was before the jobs report even came out. But they basically said that we could proactively hedge against a weakening labor market by cutting rates. And so that was like their main argument that they like came in with, which I guess then the jobs report did come out on Friday and it was looking very bleak. So it's not fully wrong.
Yeah. So going over the job report a little bit. The unemployment rate is 4.2%, slightly higher than last time. The revisions were pretty bad.
Yeah, so basically like the Bureau of Labor Statistics every month comes out with this jobs report that shows the state of the market, how many jobs were added. Mm-hmm. And so this time it was 73,000 jobs in July, which was below market expectations of 109,000. But then like as more data comes in, because they're doing this monthly, so they don't have like all the pieces yet, they go back and revise like previous job data to make sure that they're keeping like an accurate count of how much the market is actually growing, because that's obviously an important metric to have. And so there are always like upwards or downwards revisions to previous months as this data continues to come in. But this time there were 2 downwards revisions of 258,000 jobs, which is like, that's really high. Like we haven't seen numbers that high.
Because that's more than the jobs that they said they added. So doesn't that just make it negative?
It's like since April, we've only added 35,000 jobs, which is like nothing. Like our economy's basically been flat since April.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, it was the biggest 2-month downward revision since April 2020, which was like COVID. So.
Right.
Yeah, and specifically the industries that lost jobs were the federal government, and every other industry remained flat except for healthcare and social assistance. Yeah. So when we talk about the ones that remain flat, it's like manufacturing, construction, retail, transportation, and this makes sense because it's like So then I read a bunch of discourse about how like tariffs affect jobs. And there's a pretty strong historical precedent for like when there's tariffs, the numbers of jobs go down, unemployment goes up. But specifically in this case, what we're seeing is that like because there's uncertainty in tariffs, businesses don't know how to plan for the future. So they kind of just stay put so that they can like figure out what's going to happen, and then they can, adjust expectations in different directions. And so right now it seems that like people are not committing to XYZ new project that could expand their business because it's like, well, what if we're about to get hit with tariffs and then we'd need this extra capital on standby to get us through the winter. So I see why.
There's just like so much market uncertainty that it's like it makes sense.
Also,
like,
if it's like federal employee employment rates going down, wouldn't that also just be because of like
his
Doge?
cuts?
Like,
Yeah.
he's just like fired everyone.
That's definitely from Doge.
He's like mad about his own firing showing up in a jobs report. So mad, in fact, that as we said earlier, he fired the commissioner of the Bureau of Labor Statistics, whose name is Erica I'm so bad at names.
I think it's McAntifer.
Erica McAntifer. Sorry if we're saying her name wrong. Sorry. Anyways,
I don't know. I didn't know he could fire her.
well, it appears he can.
Yeah.
And basically, like, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, like we said, is the one that releases these monthly job reports, and they're thought of as apolitical. And she was like a generally bipartisan person. Like, she wasn't. This isn't like it's not like a liberal like BLS person, which is just Bureau of Labor Statistics.
Well, it's just like it's
statistics.
analytical data.
Yeah.
Like how can analytical data have bias in it?
I mean, it can, but like that's not like the point of yeah. And basically, he was like, in my opinion, today's jobs numbers were rigged in order to make the Republicans and me look bad.
And then he also like accused her of crazy things. Like he was like she was making the jobs numbers look really good so that Kamala could win. Like he was saying all of these things about her that are just unfounded and
but also he's like previously praised the numbers that like she's released when like they look good for him.
Yeah.
Or that like the department's released.
Yeah.
He
said, "We need accurate job numbers. I have directed my team to fire this Biden political appointee immediately."
It's just like very authoritarian to say that like anything that doesn't show up in your favor is like rigged.
Yeah. And now the deputy commissioner, William Witrowski, is the acting commissioner for the BLS.
Yeah, and also like under Trump, they've started deleting like random data sets from the BLS, especially if they relate to ethnicity or like diversity content in terms of like if you're trying to track like Black employment or like Latino employment, like a lot of those data sets apparently like Denise Ross, who's the U.S. chief data scientist until like last year, was like, yeah, I just like went to look for some of the data sets I tracked and they were gone.
Crazy.
So, and like the reason that came up is because people like Trump is really mad that the BLS is like revising their jobs data, even though that's something they always do when like more information comes out. But then like on top of that, people were like, he's made their job way harder by firing a bunch of them, randomly deleting their data, and basically like just like gutting federal agencies across the board.
Yeah, because I think they were one of the ones that got hit harder by his like cuts.
Yeah.
So
Anyways, I'm not surprised, but
I mean, honestly, nothing's like surprising anymore, but it's still crazy.
Yeah, I was just thinking. I was like, after doing this, I was like, maybe I should wait on investing. I don't know, but then everyone always says you can never time the highs, you can never time the lows.
wait, I actually was thinking that I feel like the market has to go down. Like it's like too good, I think.
I agree, it's too good.
Yeah.
But it is impossible to time at the same time.
Investing.
I don't think I'm like I'm just like I'll just think about it like for fun.
Yeah.
Like it's not like
Yeah, like technically investing at all-time highs is still completely fine.
Yeah. Well, it's just like investing usually it's just like investing's better than not.
Yeah.
Even if it's all-time high.
Yeah.
I feel like whenever interest rates do end up getting cut, like the market is going to go crazy.
I also think like wait, I was thinking about it and I was like, maybe this is why Trump's like so buddy with Jensen, because I feel like Trump cares a lot about the market and kind of sees that as like the ultimate like the ultimate metric above like jobs or like any of this other stuff, because he can still always like point to stocks.
Yeah.
And like a lot of his like higher income base also cares about that.
Yeah.
Like when tariffs affected
everyone
stuff,
cares about it.
no, like the market doesn't affect the average American the way like jobs do. like I feel like different economic indicators have like different levels of effects. And like when the market, like after tariffs, when the market like crashed, like I feel like a bunch of like people that just have like a lot of money in stocks, which isn't most of the country, was like really upset. Obviously they all like feed into each other. Like I get that, but I'm just saying like I feel like the people that like listen to him like get really upset, or even like crypto will go down. And like maybe that's part of why he's been like more lenient with like Nvidia and stuff.